you can still listen to the story. Yeah, streamSAVE began in 2020 during full Corona times. It were very challenging times, but at that moment we were also very excited to start the challenges in relation to energy efficiency. And I had the luxury to do them together with 11 other partners, which is very nice to do, and is still very nice. Yeah, by the way, maybe I did not present myself, but I'm Nele Randers from PITO, and I'm the coordinator of streamSAVE. Okay, and here in this slide you see the 12 partners involved in streamSAVE. So I would also like to thank all partners for their contribution and for the very nice collaboration so far. And this is a graph that I showed many times during the project. I started with what will we do, then what are we doing, and today it will be about what did we do. I'm not going to discuss this in detail, as I've done that already multiple times, but I will focus on the lessons learned of the knowledge facility, the dialogues, and our capacity support facility, but very short, as you will hear more today as well. But we focused on 10 priority actions. The 5 first you can see here. And in the next round, the other 5, which you can also see in this slide. But what is one of the things or one of the outcomes of streamSAVE? It is our streamSAVE guidance on standardized calculation methodologies. You have that in 2 formats, in a Word document explaining in detail what the methodologies are and which indicative values you can use. And that you can also test on our streamSAVE platform. You can see that on our website and on the platform. Also, Elisabeth from Austrian Energy Agency will tell you a bit more about it. In general, it's too much to summarize in just a few minutes. But in general, I can say that the challenges and the data needs for each priority action, whether it was energy poverty, refrigeration, etc., all those challenges were quite specific for the priority action, and that we also try to reflect in our guidance or on the platform. For instance, you have the example of public lighting. In general, there are many data available for public lighting, although still a lot is missing. So in that sense, we could develop a quite technical methodology with a lot of technicalities on the indicative values. On the other hand, you have on the other side behavioral measures, where it's all very uncertain what the impact is. It's actually in frame of the EED, you should measure it quite specific for the policy measure you are implementing. So within streamSAVE, we suggested then, let's say, a European benchmark, given this uncertain context, so you have any situation or any orientation in that respect. And for heat recovery, there it is very process specific, it's depending on the process of the industry, but that will, Elisabeth will tell more. And there we suggested then more methodology on how to monitor specifically in such contexts. So what I wanted to say is that we try to reflect as good as possible the differences between the priority actions in the methodologies and the indicative values. For the dialogues, here I can only say that we organize a lot of meetings and workshops where it was good to hear a lot of external speakers sharing their experiences. It's too much to summarize. I advise you to go to our platform to also see what the lessons learned were for each of the dialogues. And it was good to hear all those stories, and it was also well attended. And in relation to the capacity support facility, that means that we provided support in the 10 countries of streamSAVE. And we are currently also doing that and also coming close to an end in 3 replication countries. And that support covered almost all the 10 priority actions. And the concrete outcomes of the support was that, which is logically, that there were suggestions for improvements on calculation methodologies and also on their national indicative values. That is, of course, a logic outcome of each each support given in a country, but there were also some supports given where the improvements are already visible during the project, in the sense that it was not only a suggestion of improvement, but also implemented. An example of that is Belgium, where the methodology and also the indicative values are put into legislation. And this was in relation to the electrification of the federal car fleet. Then in Austria, on building automation, so on BACS, it was the indicative values and methodologies were used to estimate savings potential of a new subsidy program. In Slovenia, it is integrated the methodology in their catalog, and it also improved the existing awareness of the obligated parties on building automation. In Greece, it also resulted in an immediate improvement of the Greek catalog in relation to heat recovery from industry. And in Spain, the same happened in relation to the heat pumps. What we see overall is that when you talk with stakeholders, so with policymakers and responsible bodies within the different countries on the calculation methodologies and on the indicative values, it is not just talking about savings estimations, but you immediately start streamlining also between or coordinating among all those people involved or who are responsible for the monitoring and verification of those savings. So it's not just only about methods and values, but it's also about streamlining among people and responsibilities. So that is in very short some concrete outcomes of streamSAVE, but as said, you can find everything also on our website and the platform. But it was good to see that during the project, improvements were not only suggested and taken seriously, but also immediately implemented in legislation and so on. And for the capacity support facility in numbers, as you can see, we reached out to many people in those 10 countries, and 30 energy efficiency policies will potentially be affected by those improved suggestions on methodologies. So that was very nice to see. And that brings me to the end of my presentation. And I leave now the word up to Ivana, the coordinator of.
Okay, so morning everyone. Also from my side, I will try to be brief and concise, which usually is a problem for me. So I will concentrate on achievements, and luckily we have two colleagues here who will give you the better insights into the two sides of achievements during two different panels, one on policies, another dealing with savings, and in our case, it's the savings in the companies. So first of all, I think the most important thing, the people who implemented DEESME. So you can see here we are a good combination of companies who are doing audits, like someone who is dealing with the technical side of it for a long period of time, and with policies. And the other part of our consortium are the national authorities, so people who really know what is the problem with policies implementation. So we had this luck to cover both sides of the problem related to energy efficiency and audits implementation in companies. What we were dealing with was trying to look at the barriers to energy audits, energy management system, and later on, of course, achievements of energy savings in companies. We were focusing a bit more on SMEs, but we were also dealing with the companies that were obliged to audit. So in the case of the former EED, it was only large companies. So in this case, we found out there are several, and you probably are very aware of those barriers from both sides, from the side of the companies and the national authorities. But you will see a bit more from Antoine's presentation in depth, for example, what was bothering national authorities and what are the differences among them. So from the side of the companies, of course, lack of awareness. This is probably very specific for smaller enterprises. Energy efficiency is not their priority, of course. They don't have a lot of money. And when they have money, it's not directed to this problem because there are other priorities. Of course, also, since they don't have money, they don't have a financial capacity to ask for it. So they are not very reliable from the side of the financial institution. And And then, of course, as they are not focusing on energy efficiency, they don't have people who work with it. And it is like not a managerial problem, not a managerial decision to focus on energy efficiency if that is not one of your work streams, one of the sectors you're working on. And then again, we come to the side of the national authorities where they have like one person in many countries working with the implementation of energy efficiency directive. Even in the bigger countries, it's a small team. They have to cover many aspects of energy efficiency. And when you look at the SMEs, there's a lot of them, and a lot of them don't have a lot of energy consumption. So you are not a priority, you are not the one where you can save energy for a short period of time and achieve your goals for a short period. So what we try to kind of do to cover all of this is to look at it from the perspective of the management, so from the strategic perspective of the company and from the strategic perspective of the society. So looking at all the benefits that are deriving from these kind of projects, and therefore showing the exact need for audits and energy efficiency. That's not only energy savings and not only financial savings, but everything linked to environment, employment, social issues, and so on. So this was our intervention logic of the project. It's a bit chaotic, but I guess you can see the arrows coming. The one side is dealing with the national authorities, the other one is dealing with the companies. So when dealing with national authorities, first of all, we investigated the status on how they are working with the companies. And by that, I mean seeing whether they have a support system, whether they're like supporting them to implement audits, they are promoting audits for small and medium enterprises. Do they have a register where they can even find out what companies are doing audits? For some countries, and I will not name them at the moment, they don't even know which companies have energy management system implemented. So even if they have the obligation to have the audit or otherwise energy management system, it's not familiar for the country, for the national authority, because they do it themselves. They're just having the ISO standard and that's it. So what our colleagues, Anton will tell you more, were doing is trying to survey all these national authorities and to find out, okay, we have different problems, and then we can exchange these knowledges and say, okay, Austria, for example, has a very strong one-stop shop where companies can come to a certain place to learn everything about what they need to implement energy efficiency projects, and someone else doesn't. So this would be a way that we did things, trying to transfer it from another country. And you will see it in the guidelines that will be presented later. On the side of the companies, we were trying to develop a multiple benefits approach, which will be presented by my colleague Laura. So trying to integrate all the strategical outcomes of energy audits into the energy auditing process and making it a kind of a business model for the company, a new overview on the auditing. And this includes also the multiple benefits tool. So the new way of trying to calculate cost-benefit analysis, including all the benefits that are deriving from it. The one more thing that we did is trying to communicate with other stakeholders, which are not companies or national authorities. By that, I mean associations which are working with companies, mostly them, because these are the places where the companies have the first line of contact. They're usually not contacting so much the national authorities, but the chambers of commerce and associations of similar companies have this overview of what they are doing. So everything, all of this is gathered in one result, which is the recommendation on what to change from the side of the policies to help the companies implement it either easier or anyhow, and what is our goal on the long term to also implement the project that are deriving from the audits, of course, to help them find the financing and go on with the investment. I will not go too much into details with the work because you'll hear more about it, but you can see here just the overview of it. So we did at the beginning the needs and requirements from the national authorities and all the best practices, as I said. And again, at the end, it was gathered in a guideline and a generic guideline, like which is applicable to all the countries. And then we also did a specific guideline for every of the country for their specific gaps, so they can see what they can change in their policies to help the companies. It looks like this, but you will see more of it later. Then we also implemented, or there are some things that we need to finish also, 50 audits with this additional multiple benefits analysis involved, and the 25 energy management systems, so ISO 50001 integration with the multiple benefits. So this was also coming with the trainings to the companies. So there were more companies that were trained on a level 1, 2, or 3 to do that themselves later on. So the ones that were not targeted through our project. We also, as I said, we're working with other companies and with other associations. You can also see here that most of the work with the companies has been done in 4 countries because it wasn't possible for us to do it on the level of the European Union. And this will be used as, of course, as a pilot for the later on work with other companies, with other countries. Sorry. I just show this because it's from one of our reports. What I think is very interesting. We are talking a lot lately about the multiple benefits of energy efficiency from the side of the strategical scenario developments, from the side of the households. I think there is a little less information from what it means to a company. And for us, during the work, the last one is also very important. So the companies and the management of the companies is not really focused on all these other multiple benefits, but also on the last one. So the image, the marketing side of it, and what I wrote in the beginning here, you will see the differences of the finances of the project that also includes the multiple benefits. So in this case, right now we are also cooperating with CEN and CINEA, trying to help them with their multiple benefit standard because they want to make it as a good standard for de-risking the investments in the companies. Say to the financial institutions, okay, you will achieve this, but the cost-benefit analysis also includes additional benefits which are later on repaid from the project. So this we are trying to do in a follow-up project and trying to also standardize the things that we are working on. I told you that we were working with 500 companies and that we are working with additional key actors in the countries. We thought, as I said, that involving associations and chambers is the only way to do it because we cannot target more than 50 companies in the project. But if we spread this knowledge, this is the way to implement the project in a long term. What we are starting to do now, and this is the last, as I said, objective of our project, is do the policy proposal for the national authorities. We are doing 10 proposals, and they will be finished soon, which now include. You remember I mentioned the guidelines for the transfer of knowledge. Now we are integrating also the things that we have received as an information from the companies, and we received as an information from the key stakeholders. So now we have all this gathered and saying to the national authorities, okay, at the beginning we thought these are the troubles, these are your problems, this is why you cannot implement the energy audits. But then when asking key stakeholders and asking companies, these problems a bit changed. So now we are upgrading the national guidelines saying, okay, these are the real troubles that are bothering energy related projects in companies. This is how you can help. Of these 10 countries, 5 are direct users, let's say like that. And with the new energy efficiency directive and the changes they are facing, we are trying now to help them also take a look at all of this, because now they will have to take a look at the small and medium companies, mainly medium, because of the energy consumption threshold. They are going to take a look at the multiple benefits from a different perspective. So we are ready to give them some information. With this, we are going to now help them or try to help them while implementing the new directive to take this all into consideration to be as most useful as they can for their companies. Now, returning back to the problem and to the barriers, as I said, small and medium enterprises are not a priority. However, when you look at the numbers, first of all, for the numbers of the companies, then the number of the people that are employed, that are dependent on these companies, and the investment that could be achieved there. This is, I think, a major kind of change or a step trying to take all of this into consideration and boosting this sector with financing and investment in energy efficiency. I think I was short enough. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. So, good morning, everyone. Also from my side, I'm delighted to be here with you today and to join the final event of these two very interesting projects. I am actually very happy to see that the projects that were funded from two different topics and managed to find synergies and to connect. I think we should see more and more this type of synergies and to go beyond the different silos of each project and the program. So together with my colleague Uli, we will present you and we will give you a brief overview on what we are doing at CINEA to support the implementation of the EU Green Deal. And then, of course, we will provide a focus on two, I think, very interesting and relevant topics that are currently open, and we do think that they are at stake for you. So, first slide. Sorry again. No, it seems doesn't work. There is perhaps you can hear the something.
I killed it.
Okay, great. Thank you. So, CINEA stands for the European Climate, Infrastructure and Environment Executive Agency. It is one of the 6 executive agencies that has been created by the European Commission with the aim to support the implementation of different European programs. So these are the programs that are managed in-house by CINEA. We have programs such as the Connecting Europe Facility, which is financing large infrastructure projects in the field of transport and energy. Then we have, of course, Horizon Europe, which is financing activities in the field of deployment and research. The Innovation Fund, which is one of the global fund that global scale, that is financing the pre-commercialization phase of green technologies. And then, of course, we have the LIFE program, which is managed within our department. So regarding the LIFE program, it is a really well-known program. It was first established in 1992. And originally, it was made by 3 sub-programs. So as you can see here in the slide, natural biodiversity, circular economy, and climate change mitigation and adaptation. And now, under the current programming period that was from 2021 to 2027, a 4th sub-program has been added, which is the Clean Energy Transition sub-program. It has a total budget of 1 billion euros, and indeed, you can see this sub-program as the successor of the energy efficiency part of Horizon 2020, which is the program that has funded the 2 projects that are here today. So the new LIFE program has not really changed much in terms of objectives compared to the previous version. We are still aiming at reaching ambitious objectives, such as improving the quality of life, decarbonizing the EU economy. But of course, with the Clean Energy Transition sub-program, now we are also financing projects that are fostering the market uptake of energy efficiency measures and renewables in different layers of the society. In fact, we are targeting, as we will also explain later on, households, buildings, local authorities, and of course, the business sector. So there are currently 13 topics under the 2023 call of the LIFE CET sub-program. The call was launched last month, so on the 11th of May 2023, and the deadline for applicants to submit proposals will be in November this year, 16th of November. Actually, last week we organized the Info Day as a virtual Info Day to present and to give a glimpse on what we expect from the different topics. The total budget for this call for this year and for the LIFE CET is indeed 100 million euros. So we do expect to finance in total 60 projects. Each proposal will be evaluated by 3 external experts, and the evaluation of the proposal should take place sometime around January next year. And most of these topics will basically foreseen a consortium, so meaning that partner will have to team up with other entities and at least 3 eligible entities from 3 different countries, but not all. There are also some topics that will allow applicant from one country to submit a proposal, so without this requirement of 3 entities from 3 different countries. And being the live CET, so the Clean Energy Transition Program, the co-funding rate is quite high because there is 95% compared to the other sub-programs of the live, where the average funding rate is around 60%. Now, I will give the floor to Uli, and she will introduce the 6 intervention areas that have somehow inspired the creation of these 13 topics.
Thanks, Filippo. Welcome also from my side. As Filippo said, we leave the reference and the description of the projects to the real experts that are you. And we take the chance to promote a bit our call. And in that, we don't have the time to really look into the whole call, but pick up those topics that might be potentially coming from those 2 projects be most interesting for you. So, we have a long intervention. It's not fully precise because there are 5 intervention areas, but you will see 6 pillars here. I won't go into the details, but if you want to look at it in pillars, so we have the building a national, a regional, and local policy framework and supporting the clean and energy transition. Under those pillars, we have more or less three topics. The usual that we call local, citizen, regional technical support to clean energy transition plans and strategies in municipalities and regions. And then we have the second one, which you find there normally in bold, effective implementation of key legislation in the field of sustainable energy. This is now live set, but it has been there also in a very similar form under H2020. And this is exactly under which topic streamSAVE was supported. And then as a third one, we have the April topic, which is an improvement of the quality and the use of data in the central product database April. Then as a second pillar, and that is part of one intervention area, which is digitalization, rollout of technologies and so on, we have the decarbonization of buildings and heating and cooling. We have an energy performance of buildings topic, a big one called Betareno. We're missing a little bit the acronyms here. We have a topic on district heating and cooling. We do have a topic on heat pump deployment. Then, as the third pillar here, also belonging to the officially second intervention area, it's building skills and capacity of industry and the service sector. There we have the, which is will usually certainly know, the build-up skills topic again, with different priorities this year, more also going into digitalization. And I look at Filippo here. We also have a business topic here, supporting the clean energy transition of European businesses, that Filippo is going to explain a bit in detail. So then we have 3 more pillars. One is facilitating investment projects at local and regional level, meaning, for example, with a big one-stop shop topic with 4 subscopes, this time not only targeting private households, but also SMEs, right? Sure. And business and public entities. And we have, as we had in the last years, also PDA, project development assistance. Then we have one topic under attracting private finance, PrivaFinance, the acronym. So crowding in private finance, that clusters the mainstreaming and the innovative financing topics of last year's. And then finally, we have the citizens and the clean energy transition. And there we have this year a topic addressing energy poverty and vulnerability. And this is, we have a European Energy Communities facility. So it's not the usual topic on energy communities, but we have a real big facility that aims to give little grants to get energy communities started. So it's a bit different type. So these were the 13 topics. And I wanted to just quickly go into this policy topic that, wrong or right, we thought would be one of the topics that is most interesting for you because it's very, very familiar to what you're nodding. Jean-Sebastian, how come? Okay. So policy towards an effective implementation of key legislation in the field of good sustainable energy that existed under H2020. It also existed already last year in the last set and the year before, but with different scopes. So just the basics, as Filippo said, is another action round, 95% of co-financing minimum, 3 applicants from 3 eligible countries. We have an indicative budget this year of 8 million. And the indicative budget per project, but you don't have to stick to it, would be 2 million in our opinion. What we would expect for this topic is that applicants are very, very well aware of the political context, the policy context, and then so that they submit future-proof proposals. So proposals that can also deal with upcoming policy needs, because of course now that we are in the middle of having new legislation, I mean for ED and Renewable Energy Directive already quite advanced, just before adoption, for EPBD still a bit later. And then if I mention already those directives, it also means that this year all 3 topics are open. So ED support for the implementation of the Energy Efficiency Directive, of the Renewable Energy Directive and the EPBD. Before it was always only partly open. General scope, you see there on the slide 4 things. Sharing of best practices within and across member states, that's on top of the concerted actions that we have. And just to mention that streamSAVE and UNSMOF together had a very, very nice event at the concerted action last year. Yeah. Then one big theme, and that has always been one of the big focuses of policy work in the past, is the support and technical advice for the contextualization and specification of requirements. So, I mean, I forgot to say that the main target group is member states and public authorities at national level and their implementing bodies. We have a third theme, and that also very, very much reflects the policy need that streamSAVE and UNSMOF are addressing, is the support for the monitoring and evaluation of policy implementation and in their methodologies to accurately measure, calculate, and account for contribution made under specific policy measures and programs, and that is exactly what we're doing under streamSAVE and UNSMOF. And then, but we look also into any kind of methodologies that would collect and report and integrate data across different pieces of legislation, because there's quite a gap. So just, I don't want to go now into the specific scopes, and I don't have to read this all out to you. We just picked a couple of issues or a couple of key aspects of the Energy Efficiency Directive, mainly aspects that are that are being enhanced or tightened or newly introduced by the revision. And that's the energy efficiency first principle. And there would be the supporting of operational implementation. It's the targets that, of course, that have been strengthened. And there we always look for new methods to collect, integrate, and report data and to evaluate policies and measures. The role of the public sector has been or will be strengthened considerably. I think I can say that's safe to say. The energy savings obligation, energy efficiency obligation schemes will be enhanced and get a new focus on energy poverty. And then also energy service is also a topic that is very important and has been strengthened. There are others, you're not limited to these points. Even shorter scopes B and C, on the one hand, Renewable Energy Directive. You see there key aspects are permitting, self-consumption, energy sharing, renewable energy communities. And for the EPBD, we have defined 2 core areas. One is to enhance effectiveness on the coherence of instruments. I want to just mention energy performance certificates, but also possibly the upcoming maps, then anything that has to do with buildings, data, and data governance. And then the second area that is more about the transition to climate neutral building stock, meaning ZEVs, meaning global warming potential and cost optimality. But please look into the details if you're, this was just a very, very quick overview. And now I think I go over to.
Thank you again. So regarding the decarbonization of the industry sector, it will really play an important role for the achievement of the EU Green Deal objectives, and it will play an equally important role also within the DEESME program. So as you know, the industry and service sector together are responsible for almost over 40% of the total EU final energy consumption, accounting for respectively almost 26% and 40%. In the last 15 years, the industry sector has reduced its emissions of roughly 20%, which is indeed positive. But if we look carefully, we can see that most of the efforts were made by energy-intensive companies, which means that there is a huge amount of companies out there, mainly SMEs, that are not part of this clean energy transition process. And furthermore, in order to reach a fully decarbonized economy by 2050, the industry sector will have to reduce its emissions of around 90-95% compared to the 1990 level. And this means that the decarbonization of the industry sector will be a challenge that will very much endure in the years to come. So, as I mentioned, we have one topic out of the 13 topics under the CET program that are currently open, which is targeting exactly the business sector. This topic is made by two scopes, Scope A and Scope B. So, applicants can decide which one of these two to choose. Scope A, as I will say in a moment, is really focusing on creating a better ecosystem for the uptake of energy audit recommendations and energy management system, whereas Scope B is really about fostering the energy cooperation among companies. So regarding Scope A, we really started from this report that was published in CINEA in 2021, where we assess the impacts and achievement of more than 41 projects that were funded for the Intelligent Energy Europe Programme first and then Horizon 2020. And all of these 41 projects were really supporting the market uptake of energy efficiency measures, and they were really looking at improving methodologies for the energy audits. And we saw among the very interesting figures that you can find in this report that the energy savings potentially achievable through an energy audits are ranging between 18 and 20%. Of course, if all the measures were to be implemented. What we have seen in our projects is that the implementation rate of the recommended energy saving measures are around 20-25%, which lead us to actual energy savings of 4.5%. Which is way a bit higher than what you can see in the literature review out there, because usually an energy audit is associated with 3% of actual energy savings. So the idea here of this scope is really to increase this implementation rate. How? There are two issues that we would like proposals to look at. One is really to targeting companies. So support companies in developing, in implementing the energy audit measures through the development of tailored services. So external organizations that will approach companies, and then they will take care of the whole journey from the energy audit to the actual implementation. So this is the service that we do try to support this scope. And then indeed, very important is about enhancing the energy corporate culture of the company. So really trying to have not only the staff of the company on board, but also the management part. And this is very important, the element related to the
sorry, I was meaning 5 minutes left.
It's fine. I was also looking at your names that are perfectly done. So I will be very quick. So it's really about, we have also the multiple benefits to be taken into account. So regarding the national and regional authority support, and this is something that DEESME has also looked at, the idea is really to promote and to increase the quality of the energy audits, which very much differ from country to country. And this has also implications with regard to the availability of energy auditors. So here, what we want to see is the supporting company, member states, and energy authorities to develop audit support schemes to share best practices for instance with regard to tax and financial incentives and so on. So regarding scope B, here what we are looking for is really to support the market uptake of energy efficiency measures, but also renewables through the development of collaborative approaches among companies that are either operating in the same value chain or that are in proximity. The idea behind is that companies, by decarbonizing and increasing their energy performance, they will generate an economic value because they are supporting the contributing to the achievement of the European Union's objectives. So applicants here can look at one of these two concepts, so either sustainable value chain or local cooperation. So of course, for sustainable value chain, proposal will have to target companies in the same value chain, no matter the size. The dimension of the value chain can go from local to European and even beyond, if well justified. And you don't necessarily need to target the full value chain. You can target only part of it. We know that the energy intensity changes considerably. Regarding the local cooperation, indeed, you have to target companies in proximity, so in the same region, cluster, industrial parks. What we mean for cooperation is really to share assets, to share energy services, and to create really a nice ecosystem that can facilitate the implementation of energy efficiency measures. In a nutshell, the activities that the proposal applicants will be doing is to trigger interest, awareness, and knowledge on the selected concepts, to establish concrete cooperation initiatives. So in other words, to develop a business model to be tested and validated also during the time of the project. And again, since we are targeting the business sector, it is again very important to look at the economic value of placing sustainability within a business model. As we know, we are using economic models that come from the past, and they are not really perfectly suitable to capture this value. We still have concepts such as free cash flow, net value income to capture the value that a company is generating, but there are other economic models or languages that need to be developed really to capture the value of sustainability, which has an economic value, because the companies, by becoming sustainable, they will become less risky, they will become more fit for the market, and so on. Last but not least, we do expect to see the development of benchmarking mechanisms to support policymakers in keep tracking of the clean energy transition process of the business sector. Last, it is just a recap saying that the total available budget for this topic for this year is 6 million euros. The expected EU contributions is around 1.75 million. The average duration is 36 months, so 3 years. But as also Willy already mentioned, nothing prevents you from requesting a higher contribution or a different duration. Thank you.